Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. We're here today with special guest, Joe Weldon, who's here to share with us his voiceover classes and his book, You Are the Message, Revolutionary Speaking Tools for a Better Life, Deeper Loves, and Irresistible Leadership. So what if your voice, whether in everyday conversation or stepping into a voiceover role, could shape how others trust, connect, and truly experience you? Would you consider changing how you speak? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Joe Weldon is an actor, voiceover actor, and storyteller who brings a wealth of experience from voiceover, stage, and screen to show you how to master your message and turn your everyday words into powerful tools to build stronger connections and impactful leadership. So welcome to the show, Joe Weldon.
Marianne, it is such a pleasure to be with you. What an honor. Thank you for having me on.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm just so delighted that we get to talk about your new book. So what even inspired you to write this?
So that's a great question to start off with. I never thought I'd be an author. I really didn't. I've been a voice actor for 20 some years, doing a lot of training, a lot of consulting with others. You get good at something and you want to be able to share it. So that's kind of what's driven me all these years, teaching voice acting in LA, Hollywood, down in Santa Monica, all kinds of different activities that have to do with live communication using your voice. Well, suddenly this is what happened after COVID. COVID's like this black hole for all of us in a way, right? We have these memories of what happened to us during COVID. For me, it was like, well, voice acting, no more going to LA, everything closed up. Suddenly I'm going, well, let's maybe try it over Zoom like everyone else is doing. And so that's what we did. We started taking some students on with voice acting courses over Zoom. And of course, it was kind of gangbusters. People were really into it. They're all at home. College students are taking it because they're not going to class in person. So this is what happened, Marianne. It was interesting. I had a good friend who had a couple family members that took my courses. They took level 1 and level 2 over the course of 11 weeks. And about 3 or 4 months after they completed the class, Bob, my friend Bob Phillips, the co-author with me, he calls me up and he goes, Joel, whatever you did to these 2 members of my family that took your course, whatever you did to them, we need to write a book about it. And so I got on the phone with Bob and we're talking about it. And he said, listen, whatever you taught them has expanded their ability to communicate. It's given them confidence they never had before. It's changed their personalities in certain ways. And so that got me thinking. I said, Bob, you're an author. He's written a zillion books. And I said, would you help me write the book if we do it together? And he said, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's write this book and I'll help you through the process. And I was so grateful that he was there because I didn't know what in the world I was doing. I'm a voice actor, And so it was just a really interesting, it was really an interesting story how it came about. And so now here we are with the book released this fall, and it's been just a blast to see the results and what people think. I'm getting constant messages from people. This is so cool. I've never heard this spoken of before. So that's how it came about.
Well, I like how you start the first chapter with comfort zone. And I'd love for you to dive into that for us because I think it dovetails really nicely with what you're saying. I mean, we really kind of were out of our comfort zone with COVID. I'd love to hear your aspect on this.
So the comfort zone, we thought we better start with some of the basics that even I teach in the voice acting world. When you're delivering someone else's message, right? You're becoming a character, or you're narrating a book, and if it's fiction, you're actually recreating to a certain extent characters in the book with your voice. Well, what happens in this world of voice acting is that you are allowed to become a character that is not you, right? It's a character who's given descriptions, might even have, if it's animation, they're even given a picture of what this character might be like, and you get to embody this character with your voice. If it's commercial or it's narration, you're given direction. This is either incredibly excited, the best thing ever, or it's really laid back. And this is a story I'm just going to tell you as if you and I are having a conversation a foot away. So there's all these different ways that your voice can embrace the message and then expand in areas you've never gone. So with that being said, think about this. When you and I are born, we grow up, how do we learn to speak? Well, obviously when you're young, you're mimicking your parents or the people around you or your teachers, people in your world, your family. And so you tend to be that way as you go into your teens, into your 20s even. And what I have seen is that most people, for example, if you grew up in the South, well, you're going to have a Southern accent. It's going to be a little different because you grew up in the South. If you're in the East Coast, it's Boston, it's going to be a little bit different like that, right? So you're going to grow up mimicking the voices around you. What happens then when you hit 20, 25, is we tend to kind of just embrace who we are. And this pretty much wraps up what my voice and my personality sounds like. And you tend to do that into the rest of your life. So what I've seen is, in the voice acting world, if you give people an excuse to go different places, even with their personality, maybe a place they've never gone where they're speaking incredibly energetic and it's just not like their regular life. But you know what? That's the character they get to represent. So suddenly here they are, embracing someone they've never, ever been associated with, right? And they kind of leave these rehearsals, these workouts, experimenting with personality traits they have never had before. And so that to me is absolutely fascinating. And that's what we tried to capture some of that in the book. So the comfort zone is you got to be willing. You got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. You're going to go to places that you have never gone before. And that's kind of adventurous, but it's kind of scary. So that's why the whole comfort zone, you kind of have to start with the mindset of, I'm going to allow myself to be stretched into areas I've never gone. And let's see what happens. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I think it really allows people not only to have a voice, but maybe also to look at communication in a new way. How would you kind of look at communication skills as far as importance today, especially since we're dealing with so much of AI voices?
That is a great question, Mary Ann. The thing I've been fielding from even a lot of people that I've been coaching with, public speaking skills, etc., is the AI challenge, right, is going to be this younger generation, especially, Generation X, Generation Alpha, that are just, coming into adulthood. They've grown up in a cell phone world, in having a smartphone in their hand, many of them on Instagram by the time they're 10 or 11, whatever. And it has become very, very addictive to them. It's become a dopamine addiction for so many that are in their teens going into their 20s. And even those of us that are well into our adult years, we find ourselves doing what do they call it? Doom scrolling, right? And because of that, you're going, all right, I've got to start breaking the cycle deliberately. And the way to do that is to challenge yourself in areas that you don't normally go. For example, if I start my day and the first thing I do, and I'm guilty of this, and I don't know about you, Marianne, but I think that most of us are. We kind of, you have the alarm maybe on your phone. So the first thing you're going to do is, turn off your alarm, possibly on your phone. Your hand touches your phone, and suddenly you find yourself grabbing your phone, and you're looking at your phone, and now the phone pretty much starts your day. Well, I've been challenging myself to say, all right, I'm going to start my day differently. I might turn the alarm off, but now let me go into life with more of a mindfulness about the fact that I'm alive, the fact that I have been given today as a gift, and I want to make the most of it. I don't want to waste it. And if you're really honest with yourself, with your phone, you realize that in many ways, I'm wasting so much of my days. Marianne, do you ever get those alerts on your phone? This is how many hours you spent on your screen last week. Do you ever
I
get
turned
those?
those off.
Oh, it's like I started getting those and going, wait a minute, I spent that many hours times 7 days a week, and I'm going, there's something's very wrong here. So the challenge for me and for all of us is, how do we be fully human in a world where AI and technology has such a draw upon us? And I would dare say that all of you, even listening, you're probably thinking, you know what? I want my life to be the richest it can be. I want my relationships to be the most meaningful they can be, the deepest they can be. And if I don't take the time to deliberately make it happen, then it's not going to happen. And weeks are going to go by and years are going to go by. And I'm going, I just don't want to waste it.
I think that's so powerful because relationships do require time and work. I think, and work in a way that we're investing, of ourselves into something that's meaningful.
Absolutely. When you think about our son is graduating from university, our youngest, he's graduating university this year down in San Diego. I remember when we first, he started his freshman year and we visited on campus, and I'm looking around. This is, 4 years ago. And I'm seeing more students lined up against a brick wall or on a bench, and they're not conversing at all. Most of them are sitting there on their phone. Now, that was 4 years ago, and you can imagine even now how much worse it's gotten, to the point where it's become a chronic problem. And I look at all those students and I'm going, many of those students, they don't know how to express themselves. They don't know how to start a conversation, maybe with a random stranger. Marianne, I heard this statistic. It just hit me. It was I was reading it last week, probably reading on my phone, and I saw this statistic and I went, wait a minute. Most people would rather wait to go through the self-service line to check out of a grocery store. They would rather wait in the self-service line than have a conversation with a cashier. Now, I was thinking, well, maybe that's because it's just quicker. And it went on to say that the research shows that no, they would rather wait longer in the line than have to deal with somebody at the cash register. Now, for me, I have friends that I love, family that I love. I value them, and we all do. But I think a lot of times we're undercutting our ability to have rich relationships. Like you just said, Marianne, we love to be together. We like to have the richness and the depth of relationship. And where does that happen? Well, generally it happens in conversation, how we communicate with one another.
Well, and so why is authentic speaking the new superpower for leaders and especially creators, and especially when we have a time when people are having such a difficult time communicating?
So when you think about the fact that I've taken several personality tests, and the fact of the matter is, you and I, through life, sometimes maybe you're applying for a job, you're going to be required to take a personality test, and they're going to test who you are and what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, right? And there's so many of them out there. I mean, Myers-Briggs and MMPA and all the different ones, Enneagram, for example. We've all kind of taken them a lot of times with curiosity. It's like, yeah, it's going to give me some idea of who I am, right? And I enjoy it because it's fun, kind of that self-realization, self-analysis of who we are as a person. Now, I mentioned it in the book even. When you take one of those tests, the danger is that you're going to get the results back and you're going to go, oh, yeah, that is me. Oh, that's me. Yeah, that's me. And then you might share it with your friends. Yeah, I tend to be an introvert and this blah, 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 blah. And I'm a little more, clerical in some areas, a little more, frolicky in some areas. Maybe I'm an extrovert here or there. So you look at all these different characteristics. And here's the danger, Marianne, is that you and I have a tendency to allow that to dictate who we are for the rest of our lives. And sometimes I have seen it happen and I go, no, don't do that. That's a snapshot of who you are now, but learning your strengths, learning your weaknesses, who you're created to be. Now let's explore that a little bit, because don't let that personality test define who you are for the rest of your life. Danger, danger. Let it inform who you are now and who you want to grow into with years to come, and challenge yourself. You know, Marianne, you're such a pro at what you do. It's like when I've listened to you in some of the other interviews and I go, oh my word, you're so natural and so great at drawing things out of people. You know, there's a skill that you've learned there that's so good. And I would dare say that you're like me. You don't ever want to stop learning and growing and getting better. And the curiosity should drive me to challenge myself. How can I be better? How can I be a better parent to my kids and not do what my parents did in their bad habits or whatever? How can I embrace friendship and make it deep, make it rich? Maybe I'm golfing with a buddy. How can I enter into a conversation that really matters, where I'm not just hitting the ball and, talking about the weather and talking about work, but I'm really talking about life? To me, that's really where the richness of life is. And I want to challenge people, even in the book, to say, how can I become a better communicator, a better human?
I love that. I think that that's so important. We can all embrace that message as we learn and grow. And you're right. That's something that I do with every person I speak with. I learn something new, just like this conversation we're having right now. What is, in your opinion, because I know you work with so many people, like some of the fears that you find that hold people back that you're able to help them work through?
Here's one very basic challenge, and again, it tends to be foundational for me when I'm challenging an individual. If I'm coaching someone with for on-camera skills or being interviewed, for example, a lot of times people they're very concerned about what people think of them. And you and I have heard the term imposter syndrome. It's kind of been thrown around for many years now. It's like, oh, I'm not worthy to be here. I compare myself to other people and I just don't measure up. That is a very real feeling, and it's a real challenge for many of us. So what I will do with my clients and my students, I'm going to say, okay, we're going to take this to the very basic level. Do you believe you have something of value to share with the world? And everyone's going to say, well, I think so. Okay, well then, if you at least believe that much, for someone that needs what you know, right? Take this very simple visual and apply it to your life. I want you to envision the word mission, 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 in all caps, bold, okay? Now, after the word mission is going to be the greater sign, okay? So it's just a little greater sign after mission. Now comes me, M-E in lowercase, and it's not bolded. This is your challenge. Your mission, right? If you truly believe it, is way more important than what people think of me, what I'm concerned about me. Will people like me? What if I stumble? What if I use filler words? What if I lose my train of thought? Oh, heaven forbid that would ever happen. But you know what? If your mission is still paramount and what you want to share with the other people in your life, in the world, if that's more important, then you know what? It doesn't matter. You're not going to be perfect. None of us is. So when you go with that kind of an attitude, suddenly it gives you freedom and say, you know what? I can mess up. I don't have to be perfect. I can give a presentation and even kind of stumble a little bit. And I could even laugh at myself because I'm not perfect. But my mission is really important. And so if we start there with a lot of my students and my clients, I'm going to just say, listen, even before our session today, I want you to challenge, how's your attitude? Is mission the most important thing in your life right now? Yes. Okay. then let's move ahead and make this a successful, great day and great meeting and great session. So does that make sense, Marianne?
It really does. And I like how you position that. It's all about mindset and also the value that we bring to the world, which I think people really diminish their own value sometimes.
Oh, exactly. I mean, you think about it and you go, do you know something better than people out there in the world? Oh, I'm sure you do. We all do. We all excel at something, at least, even if you're young, you maybe aren't an expert at it yet, but you know what? You're one or two steps ahead of the person that needs to hear what you have to say. And you can share that. You don't have to be Mr. Know-it-all, Miss Know-it-all. You don't have to. Just take what you know and be able to share it with the world and encourage others. And suddenly it all, wow, I'm a believer. And so I think God has different plans for us in ways that we don't fully understand. But we need to be available and say, okay, how can I improve my world today? How can I encourage and love someone else today and improve their life? That should be all of our mission in life.
Do you also work with like really seasoned speakers and business leaders who are looking to really up their game?
Absolutely. A lot of what I've been doing, it's interesting that the voice acting world has opened doors I never expected with people that really need help with their presentation, the way they express themselves. One of the things that we teach is emotional voice intelligence. For example, if Ford is one of my huge clients, so I'm the voice of Ford for many of their models nationwide. If I'm thinking of my target audience, who's going to hear my message about this amazing car, right? I have to tailor the way I deliver my words and my speech. I have to tailor it so that the target audience is going to receive it. It's going to be magnetic enough where they're going to want to respond to it. Now, that happens in everyday conversation as well. You and I have the ability to wrap our words with emotional context. It could be concern, right? It could be excitement. It could be a lot of fun and crazy. Let me just tell you what happened to my dog last week, right? I'm just telling a story. But the way you and I deliver our words in everyday conversation, when you start to expand your ability and your voice, suddenly you realize that people respond to you differently. If someone's told you in the past, and they said, and this is for all of you out there listening, if someone's told you in the past, well, you're not very interesting when you speak, or your voice sounds real flat and boring. Well, if you work on it, there are very, very practical ways to practice things that will help your voice become way more enticing, way more magnetic, way more interesting. And again, it goes back to the mission is greater than me. It has to be underneath that umbrella. And suddenly you go, if this person needs to hear my voice in a certain way, with a certain tone, I know how to deliver it. And it just starts to open up your world. It really does.
Well, Joel, I'm pretty sure that I bought my Ford because of one of your commercials.
That's crazy. I know. So I get calls from friends around the country. And they go, "Yeah, I just heard your ad, man, for Bronco Sport. That one's really cool." They don't ever know my name. They just hear my voice, and hopefully they buy a car, which keeps me going. So yeah, it's crazy.
That is too funny. That is too funny. Oh my goodness. Well, and I know that you're having like top leaders and actors and voiceover actors. People are learning to do that to come to you. But how about folks also who are maybe wanting to like deliver a wedding speech or something along that line, just like everyday folk?
Oh my goodness. So the book is it's very comprehensive in that it's for every conversation you could possibly want to have in your life. Something in this book is going to apply to help you do that better. Okay. Whether you're having a conversation, maybe a difficult one with your child, and maybe it's a teenager or, somebody in your family, and you've got to sit down and talk about some difficult things. It's going to help you deliver your thoughts more concisely and more accurately, right? If you are giving a massive speech at a huge arena, right? And you're going to be on stage. This book will show you from green room in the back how to find your way, how to practice your presence on that huge platform, how to embrace the room, right? Embrace in the room, even though there's 20,000 people in the room. How do you physically and verbally embrace the room? It's going to help you with that. So, and everything in between. The thing about the book for us was we wanted it to be any speaking situation. This book will help you. Obviously, we can go different directions with it, with all sorts of different, careers. If you're an attorney, maybe you're doing a closing argument in a courtroom, we're going to help you do that better as well. So here's a really good, simple, one of the tools that we use. And a lot of people, you can just quickly apply this and experiment with it. I call it the C4 method. Now, there are 4 categories to the energy we project with our voice, okay? So C1, and I'll go into them as I explain it. C1 is going to be confidential voice. Confidential voice is where no one else needs to hear this. This is between you and me. If I'm in a situation and I want this to be private, my voice is going to back down, my projection's backing down. I'm looking you in the eye, and you and I are talking about something serious, okay? C1. C2 is conversation. I'm sitting at a coffee shop and I'm having a conversation with my friend, and we're just bantering about life and catching up, and we're laughing and we're telling stories, and we don't care if anybody else is listening. I mean, they could enter the conversation if we want. It's just conversational every day. So that's C2. C3 is going to be coach voice. Now, this is where you are the authority. You could be a teacher. You could be an advocate, an attorney. You're into coach voice because you are delivering truth. It could even be very, very important to someone's life. So I'm the coach. My voice is going to sound that way. It's going to have a little more punctuation to it, a little more percussiveness in appropriate areas. So that takes us to C4. C4 is I'm all in, right? I am compelling. That's what C4 is. I could be loud. If Jimmy is chasing the ball and he's going to the street and there's a big truck coming, what am I going to do? Jimmy, stop! Right? So sorry about that. You're going to use your voice to make something happen. So that's your compelling tone. So within all those categories, obviously that's very basic. It's a basic framework. And within that are microcosms of different nuance and emotion. But that's a really good place to start for people that want to expand the way their voice sounds in everyday living, at your job, with people, family. It's a great way to start.
That's such an important piece. And I would think timing's like real important as well in getting all those aspects together, because you don't want to command something when you're wanting to be more confident.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing too, I always encourage people to do, for example, if they're being interviewed on television, right? Obviously, you're thinking about how you look and how you come across. But the one thing is, you want to acknowledge the audience. Now, you don't always have to look in the camera to do that, but you want to acknowledge them by asking questions of not just your interviewer, but maybe in general, you're going to say, you're going to include your story. Right? It's just a little circle, kind of a triangle circle. So you're going to include your story as one point. Then you're going to move to asking your audience if they have a story that relates to the subject. And then the third one is going to be the answer, the solution that you found. For example, if it was fear, and we all know what it's like to be fearful, right? So I'm going to tell a quick story about my experience as a kid when I was extremely fearful. And I might share that in just, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Now I'm going to ask my audience. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. Maybe, do you have a story that is similar to that? Maybe you had this, and give them a couple of examples if you want to go that far. And then you're going to direct them to the answer. What answered that challenge? What answered that fear issue for you? And then you share that part of it. And now the empathy ramps from 2 or 3 on a scale from 1 to 10. Now the empathy just rose to 8 or 9 because people connect it with their own life. They relate with you in a way that they wouldn't have if you just shared your story. Does that make sense?
It's making that connection with people, really getting that emotional connection with people where there's a level of understanding.
Yeah, and when they do, suddenly it's like you just see the lights go on. You see the faces connect with you. And, I always encourage people, if you're going to be interviewed on camera, always archive a copy of it. And then you're going to watch what you did, watch what you could do better. But don't be so hard on yourself. Just be yourself. Share your heart. Mission is greater than me.
You ever get people asking you, what do I do with my arms, my hands while I'm talking? Because I would think that people are get a little nervous and what do I do with them?
Always. So here's a pre-interview exercise. I teach my clients. If you're going to be interviewed in a situation, right, and it's going to be on camera especially, but really this goes even an interview like you and me are doing right now, Marianne, even if it's just audio. I always encourage people, okay, when you're in the area or prior to you being in the actual interview studio or wherever it's at, maybe it's outside even, prior to that, a little mindset challenge, right, is going to be open up your arms really big. Open them wide. This is something we typically don't do unless we're working out or something like that. But open your arms really wide, like you're stretching, but yet keep them up there and feel the space that you command right now. You feel the space. Okay. This is the space that you're going to be interviewed from. It's not going to be where you're all contained and you're hunched in and you're drawn in. You want to feel like I'm free to move. Now, during the interview, you may not ever open your arms wide, but what I'm saying is it's a mindset that you're prepping yourself for presence in the room. And it also affects the way your voice sounds in a huge way. And so when you're doing voice acting, for example, I'm in the studio, I'm moving around a lot. If it's energy, if it's not, and I'm supposed to be quite small, quite timid, well, then I'm going to hunch in. I'm going to draw my hands in. I'm going to be almost scrunching my shoulders because I will sound that way to the audience. Okay, so I know this is a long way to answer the question, Marianne, but if you learn to move, and if you're on a platform and you're able to move from side to side, especially if you're in a room that you're going to present to and the room is empty, you're doing a sound check, by all means, own the stage. Walk it from side to side. Look out at the room. Look at the left. Look at the middle. Look at the right. Pretend you're seeing a face. Because when people sense that you're looking at one person, when that room is full and you're actually able to connect eye to eye with somebody, the whole room feels it. You don't have to look at them individually. They feel what it's like for your face to connect with another face. And suddenly, you're connecting with them. So those kind of things, I love watching the lights go on when people, challenge themselves in these areas and succeed. It's like, that's why we're here.
That is definitely why we're here. Well, I'd love to learn more about your courses. So can you share a little bit about that with us? And don't you have one coming up here pretty soon?
Actually, yes, I do, as a matter of fact. Thanks for asking, Marianne. So voice acting, I do level 1 and level 2, and I do them a couple times a year. Level 1 goes for about 4 weeks. This year it's going to be on Tuesday nights starting January 20th. And then we do level 2 starting in March. You have to take level 1 from me to get to level 2, and that's for the voice acting world. But if you want to just go into some of the stuff that we're talking about, you could go to youarethemessagebook.com, and there you can get a link to, it's a free PDF that'll kind of get you started. It'll ask you questions about what you feel and think and know about your voice now and what you're hoping to learn. And then we might have resources for you, or we might be able to point you in the right direction. But that's a good place to start. If you go to empoweryourplatform.com, you'll see links to all the courses and all the voice acting courses as well.
Well, what a great opportunity that is to up your game no matter what industry you're in. Joel, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, Marianne, my pleasure. What an honor. Seriously, thank you so much for inviting me and allowing me to share my story with the world. It's really, really an honor.
Well, thank you, Joel. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you, and not only to talk about your voice acting classes, but also your new book, You Are the Message: Revolutionary Speaking Tools for a Better Life, Deeper Loves, and Irresistible Leadership. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.